Now first I need to get rid of a little thing, well, not so little thing. How old is humankind? When were the earliest of what we call modern humans with a good capacity brain actually around on this planet? And the answer is that nobody knows. It doesn't matter what they tell you, nobody knows. Now, this field is very fascinating, and something seems to be discovered nearly every 2 weeks or so that pushes the date of early man and of civilization further and further back in time. And people are saying, well, where's all the fossils? Where's all the fossils? Well, the thing is that fossils only actually occur in very specialized circumstances. To make a fossil, you actually need to have water present at the time of death. You need to have fine silt present that is mineralized, which is to say there are water soluble minerals actually in it. So someone that falls into a marsh or a lake, they could get fossilized. Anyone anywhere else, the bones will just decay and rot away, unless of course they're in the middle of the desert. If they're in the middle of the desert, then whippy, the chances are the bones will survive without fossilization. But hang on a minute, we're not even looking for them. And that's another thing I'll come to in a moment. So until quite recently, everyone was saying, oh, man is no more than 150 to 200,000 years old, and then a bunch of other things happened. So let's have a look. Now here we have a report of some Ethiopian stone tools that were found, and the Homo sapien bones, the oldest that we've got, between 195,000 and 200,000 years old at the moment. But as I said before, human fossils are very, very difficult to find, especially if you're not looking for them. And using argon dating, then those tools have been discovered to be 276,000 years old. And it's highly unlikely that we've actually found the first ever use of Stone Age tools, so likely considerably older than that. And then we have the footprints. Well, there's a whole bunch of footprints that have been found. Recently there have been some found here in the UK that are over 1 million years old and seem to be that of modern man. And here at Illoret also, they're saying fossilized footprints of a possible Homo erectus or Homo ergaster. Well, no. If you actually read the archaeologist's report, what they say is that the footprints are indistinguishable from those made by a modern foot. And why is this important? Well, the thing is that monkey feet and ape men feet are much better adapted for supporting the body against gravity than we are, which is another thing that points to the fact that we're possibly not of the same lineage at all. And these footprints here are 1.5 million years old. And there's other things that have been found. For example, these bones here were found inside sandstone. And immediately the archaeologists, who have a great vested interest in saying, oh, they're not that possibly that old, have immediately said it's a later burial. But as you can see, although some of the bones are in a soft area, other bones are actually embedded inside sandstone rock. So how old is this? Well, it would coincide with some of the last of the dinosaurs. And it gets even stranger, because human bones in a coal bed. and you can see here that we're talking about humans that coexisted with dinosaurs. So a minimum of 280 million years ago. Now, of course, scientists will dispute this for a number of reasons, one of which they've got this nice little pet theory of evolution which says we came from these little squirrel-like monkeys that evolved into slightly bigger apes that evolved into more intelligent apes which became tool using and then evolved into us. And yeah, sorry, but it kind of doesn't stack up. And there are so many of these reports. If none of you have already seen it, look for Michael Cremo's work on forbidden archaeology, and there he discusses the actual discovery by an Italian archaeologist in 1890 something or other of human bones intact under a slate bed which was undisturbed. So this couldn't be an intrusive burial like they're trying to state that the Malachite man bones were. This had to have been a death, and the fact that they were covered in slate tells you that the conditions were ideal for fossilization, because slate only forms where you've got heavily mineralized water and silt. And there are so many finds, it is unbelievable, and the archaeologists of course are trying to diss all of them. So why aren't we finding any fossils? Well, as I've already mentioned, fossils don't actually occur everywhere, and we're talking about intelligent people here. We're not talking about animals. So if you're walking along, you're a dinosaur, you're walking along with your buddy Dinosaur B, and he falls into a swamp and drowns. What do? You go, tut tut, he's drowned, I'm walking on, I'm moving. However, if a human being falls into a swamp, whether he drowns or not, his friend is going to pull him out. And in fact, human death and funerary practices are often such that bodies will be recovered from these sorts of places. So fossilization will never actually occur. So anything that's older than about 500,000 years old, forget it. You're not going to find these fossils. What you might find, however, is tools and artifacts. And the problem that we've got there is because archaeologists have this blinkered view that man didn't exist at such an early date. Lo and behold, they're not looking for it, and what you don't look for, you cannot find. So I'm going to state here and now that mankind is at least 20 million years old, possibly further back than that. And why did we stay in the Stone Age for so long? Well, maybe there's some intriguing explanations for that. Maybe we weren't the most intelligent race on this planet. Now it seems that we may very well have shared our planet with another species. Now if you search Google for elongated skulls, you will find an awful lot of pictures such as these. And the scientists will turn around and say it's all got to do with cradleboarding. What's cradleboarding? Well, in a lot of societies, for some unknown reason, they used to bind the heads of their babies to make them an elongated shape. As you can see here, this is Africa in the 1920s, where this was still going on in the Congo, and you can see the sort of shape of head that was produced and peculiar features. And if you take a close look at the poor child, on the left hand side, you can see that his eyes are bulging because of the pressure on his brain. Not very good. But why did these people do this? Well, it's my contention that we're talking cargo cult here again. If you don't know what the cargo cult is, see my previous video. I'll leave you a link. Now, cradleboarding. Okay. Well, what does the human skull look like? What you've got is an area here in the middle called the fontanelle, which is where all the growth takes place along these plates, and they all meet in the middle. And when you're a little baby, this area here is completely missing because it needs to allow room for your skull to grow as the brain grows within it. And this is invariable. You have two of these fontanelles. You have one at the back, one at the top, and these plates grow in this interlocking pattern as you get older and locks your skull together into something quite solid. And if we look at the skull of someone who's been cradleboarded, you can see exactly the same sort of patterns. You can see the meandering lines, you can see the fontanelle in the centre. It's obviously a human skull. However, not all of the elongated skulls are like this. Now, these guys or girls here are not at all like this. There is no central fontanelle. You've got a big bony plate that comes back from the forehead. You've got a big bony cap which goes all the way over the top of the head with no fontanelle in it. Which is to say, these heads were not forced into being that shape. That is the way that they grew. So I said we might not have been the most intelligent people on the planet. Why do I say that? Well, there's some very simple reasons. So what makes us intelligent? And the answer is a very thin layer of material that wraps around the outside of our brain that's called the cerebral cortex. And what else is inside our brain has very little effect, if any, on our intelligence at all. It's all to do with emotions, how memories are laid down, and controlling our bodies. And the stuff that's inside this area here, the cerebral cortex, is in fact not used in thinking, it's just communications. Well, I suppose that means it is used in thinking, but not as much as the outside sheet is. And our cerebral cortex is about the size of a tea towel, about just over 1.5 feet by 1.25 feet, something like that. And this whole brain is split into functions. This cerebral cortex down here at the back, this is the back, is used for our body image. Doesn't actually really do any thinking. It controls how we perceive the world. And on each side there's a similar sized patch which controls our hearing and our vision, and all our thinking is done in the front and the top. It's this area here, the front and the top, which does all of our thinking. Now, the size of the cerebral cortex obviously isn't the only factor. I mean, as this picture points out, elephants have a much bigger brain than we do. However, they're not as good as thinking because their neurons are packed much further apart. They have 10 billion neurons in their huge cortex that's very loosely spaced, whereas the human brain has far more neurons that are densely packed. And so long as whatever it is you're talking about is of roughly the same species, then the cerebral cortex size is a good indicator of intelligence, especially the size of the cerebral cortex around the front of the head and the top. So here's our obviously non-human skulls again. How much extra space do you think they've got for extra thinking capacity? They've got around about double the frontal area and top area in their brains that we do, and logic would tend to tell you that these people would be far, far more intelligent. And I believe that to be the case, and I believe that to be one of the reasons why our cargo cult actually started to deform the heads of our babies to make them look like these people, because these people were the bee's knees of prehistoric civilization. Now it is my contention that these beings with the non-human type skulls are the people who built the vast megalithic structures. The stones sometimes weighing thousands of tons, other times weighing just 500 tons, and sometimes weighing 80 or 90 tons, that are scattered across the Middle East and in South America. And most of these ruins, this polygonal jigsaw type masonry, which we can't easily duplicate, are found in South America. And surprise, surprise, guess where most of these alien stroke non-human type skulls are found? Yep, you got it. In South America. And I believe that these people were the builders who used this type of architecture. They were physically slightly larger than we are, by no means huge. You're not talking 5 meters tall or anything like that, maybe a max of 3 meters, but they were a bit bigger and more robust than we are. So that immediately brings you to a question: what happened to them and what happened to us? And that is something I'll be answering with my ideas on the subject in the next video. So I hope you've found this interesting, and if you have, please like, share, and of course subscribe. Thank you very much.
Here's a few quick words before you go. Don't forget to check out other great videos on Arduinotronic, and if you liked this video or found it interesting or useful, please like, share, and subscribe! See you soon!
Archeaology, harmonic, ionic, bionic, atomic. It will astonish you, it's magical and casual, actual but classical, practical and factual. Archeaology, harmonic, ionic, bionic, atomic. It will astonish you, it's magical and casual, actual but classical.